Hello. So, I don't know if you've been watching some of these things, you might have heard me speak recently about expectations, right? And how you can only be let down by someone if you have an expectation of them. And naturally, that happens with family and friends and stuff. But when you're dealing with expectations on people that you don't know, that's a bit of a fool's game, right? Because you're not really basing it on anything. More than likely, you're basing your expectations of someone on the words they've used, right? And it's easy to speak. Anyone can do it, right? Um, it's not so much what people say, it's what they do, right? And you judge people primarily on what they do. Because you can have people that are the worst communicators in the world and they're nearly semi-belligerent when you're talking to them, and they've no real time for people. But their actions prove that they're good people, right? They might look after people, but they might not have much time for people, right? And then in the other way, you can have people who pour honey in your ear all day long while they're taking your wallet out of your back pocket, right? So they make you feel good while making you poorer, right? Or stealing from you, putting you in a worse position than you were before you met them. And this rings true with Conor McGregor as well, right? So he's been saying some great stuff. A lot of it are things that have been floating around already, right? Some of it additional information onto things, right? But what's interesting is he's stating goals that he has. And I was thinking of it. A lot of the politicians that you hear these days, a lot of the rhetoric is aimed around the justification for what's already going on. There's very little forward thinking in any of them, because when you listen to them, they don't really have an aim in what they're trying to do or a goal, right? When is the last time you heard any of them talk about a 5-year plan, and this is the steps that we're going to take, and this is the input that we'd like to have from people, and this is the end goal for Irish people, right? You don't hear that anymore, right? So you're dealing with maintainers or managers, people that are managing the status quo. They're not decision makers in any real sense, and we know this. We know this because they're plugged into the EU, and a lot of the decisions, a lot of the regulations, a lot of the red tape, and a lot of the hindrances that are in Ireland for nearly anything come from the EU. They're at the direction of the EU, right? And our governments just go and manage and implement that policy. That's what they do. So to hear Conor McGregor or anyone running for office with aims and intentions and somewhat of a loose blueprint of how they want to get there, that's positive stuff, right? But what has he spoken about? He's spoken about the AbbVie, which is the company that is involved, who Helen McEntee's husband is involved with. And this company makes puberty blockers, right? So medication that is for trans kids or kids that are trying to, reassign their gender, right? And he's spoken about that. That was already known. Obviously not as widely as it was as amplified from him speaking about it, right? But it was known in the small circles in Ireland, right? And now it's known more widely, which is a positive. He has spoken about what he called the human trafficking racket in Ireland, right? Blatantly obvious to anybody with a bit of sense in their heads. Well known, well understood. He might have fleshed out the understanding of it a little bit better for people who are a little bit on the fence. And he certainly, again, amplified that message and amplified that information, not just around Ireland, but external to Ireland as well. That's a positive. He's spoken about investigating Tusla to see if there's any wrongdoing there, and holding, what did he say, those who are responsible for, I suppose, any abuse of their power or any criminality or corruption involved in it will be hung, drawn and quartered across the courts in Ireland. That's positive stuff. What was the other thing he was talking about today? He said he was going to address the people from the podium, right? So we will see what he has to say. But the most important point is this: would you invest your pension in him? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do that with anybody, right? Or you shouldn't do that with anybody. So you can't put all your eggs in the one basket, obviously, because if you're still looking for somebody to come and save the whole thing, you're not going to get it. You'll be sorely disappointed because there's no one person that can come in and change everything for the better. Unless, and maybe this is slightly telling, right? Maybe unless you're willing to accept a benign dictator who'll come in and make sole decisions based on the vision that they have, right? Maybe Irish people are a little bit more accepting of that. I don't know, right? But recognize the positive impact that he's had. This goes for anybody, right? It's not just specific to him. It even goes for people that you might not like, particularly for people that you don't like. Recognize any good or positive that comes from them that is in line with how you would like to see things and what seems correct and right from your frame of reference, right? Because that's all we have is our own individual frame of reference, right? So if something is moving in the line of that's coherent with your own values, then that's a positive for you, right? And accept the goodness in people or the goodness from people, even if you hate them, even if you don't like them, and even if your neighbours all spit on them or her, right? But see the goodness in it. Use that goodness and continue to do your own little bit, right? What is it that you're interested in? What changes would you like to see, if any, or what things would you like to hold on to that you think are being wrestled from your fingers at the moment? And channel your energy into that, right? But don't be making gods of people at all, regardless of who they are, because that is how you fall into a tyranny, right? And sometimes you might be blessed with a bit of a benign dictator, and most times you probably won't be, right? So do your own little bit, recognize the positives that can come from things, and always be savvy as well, and use your own discernment, right? Because it's so easy with 15,000 different things going on that are relevant to Ireland at the moment and probably relevant to your life in some way. It's so easy to just get a bit of a smell of what the sentiment is towards it and kind of drag along or swim along with the current, right? But sit and think about things first, you know, and gauge things through the lens of your own value system instead of what you think is the right way of looking at something. I'm probably preaching to the choir of people that are going to be listening to this, but I think it's worth saying over and over again, right? That there's nobody that can come and save Ireland without the persistence and the help of each individual Irish person. Not that you need all of them, right? But without the help and the feedback loop of each individual Irish person that's aimed at something, right? Doing their own little bit, making their life a little bit better, a little bit full of little bit more optimism in their life and a little bit more hope, right? Nothing wrong with that. I remember over the last few years you have people that are trying to be positive about things getting slated, saying that they're selling opium, right? And stop doing that because you're just making people believe that things can get better, essentially. So what harm is there in that? So long as you can pull that back, you can grab that idea, right, and go, I feel like there's something positive about this, and you can ground it in something and say, not only do I feel like there's a positive to be taken from this, but I can see how that positive can be extended out from me into my life. I can use that positive and amplify that out horizontally, right, through my own family connections, friends, work, all that sort of stuff. So always keep that in the forefront of your mind, right? While there's a serious battle going on here for the existence of Ireland and Irish people, maybe we all have our part to play in it, and we're all needed, right? Everyone is needed, and any little bit people do to spread a bit of sense in the world, then that's a massive benefit, and that's a massive bonus. And keep going. And notice that, like, people make a difference regardless of how small you think your little piece is. We can only do what we can only do, right? And we can only create what we only desire to create, so we get going.